Good morning and welcome to Open Hand Farm. My name is Penny and I am so excited about the project that we're going to be showing you today. Mark is going to work with me and we are going to build an on-tap fertilizer barrel. I don't know about you, but I always forget to fertilize because I usually forget to buy the fertilizer, and then when I do get it, the weather's maybe not right for it, so I set it aside and then I forget it. This year, I'm gonna have it ready whenever I need it and be able to use it whenever I want to. So come along and let's see how we do this.
Well, this is gonna be a little stool, basically, that will be four by fours as the legs, and then a seat, if you will, that the barrel, which is right here, it's upside down, it'll be sitting on. I took each of these 4x4s to the right length, and they, so that it's good and strong, I've notched them. I took my circular saw, and I used the adjuster to control the depth so that I had 1.5 inches. By the way, it is unplugged. Anyway, it's got 1.5 inches, which is the thickness of a 2x4 that is sticking out. So what I did was I marked a gap here, 3.5 inches wide. That's the width of a 2x4. And I ran across there. So I got 2 lines, and I went and did one in the middle. And then I used a chisel and a hammer, and I very neatly knocked out the pieces. They're laying down here on the ground, so that there were these notches. Now, in a couple of minutes, we're going to cut the 2x4s that'll run all the way around, and they'll sit in there, and all the weight will be directed down into this this piece of 4x4. It doesn't look very thick there, but it's 1.5 inches thick both ways. It's plenty strong for what it's going to have to do. This board is going to connect 2 of these legs. And I just measured 24 inches here, and I'll use my square, mark it real nicely. Why is it 24 inches? The width of this thing, the barrel, is 19 inches. Then once the legs are added, 24 inches looks like it's going to be enough to pretty snugly hold the barrel, but leave plenty of room for it to go in there. Now I'm going to cut another one of these. Before I connect these 2 legs, you might wonder, well, why is one of them really short and one of them's considerably longer? The reason for that is we feel like in order to get the barrel in there and out of there, especially to get it out of there when it's got some water in it, when it's got some Comfrey debris in the bottom, if we want to clean it out, we probably will. We think it'll be better to be able to pull it forward over these. The front will be up here, and it can be tipped over and stuff can be pulled out. Penny will do that, of course. We're hoping that's the right choice. Now, Penny said that she saw this idea, the Comfrey tea, I don't know what you call it, kettle, on another video, and that's true, but she didn't see like an exact plan, didn't show how they made it, and so we're just kind of making this up as we go along. I'm kind of basing it on some water barrel supports that I built a couple years ago. Now, design change. It's been 30 seconds, and you'll notice I've got both of my front legs here, and we decided that, and I'm not going to try to explain it all to you right now, you'll see here in a minute, but I've got my notches. I made sure that the solid part they were in opposing spots. So there's the notch for the other board down in here. And you got to make sure they're the same. And that's actually something that if you go to build this, pay attention when you cut those notches, because you could easily cut 2 of these that are identical, and then you just got to start over with another one. So it's the second cut, like You can do one cut and that's fine, but the second one, they've got to be so that these remaining pieces, whatever you call that, so that it's left on opposite side. Now you might think, well, why can't you just flip it over? Well, of course, if you flip it over, they're not going to match at all. So just kind of think through it before you cut that second cut on each leg. I've also got to say, if anybody here is not a real construction-oriented person, I'm an English teacher, but still, if you don't think about this sort of stuff, you might think that's an awful lot of work. I could just do that and you know, screw it in, and it might work just fine. I had a bad experience a few years ago where I built a kind of a shed, an overhang on the edge of an old barn we had, and it was just going to be where we kept our firewood. What I did was I had 4x4s coming out of the ground, and I put like a 2x6, I think, along the front. Well, and then my rafters for the roof were resting on top of here. We had a big heavy snow. I mean, a heavy snow. And it just collapsed that thing because it just ripped the board right out of there. This, resting in there, it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it would take a lot of force to mess this up. Got to think, that's a 40-gallon barrel, that's 320 pounds. Add the Comfrey, it's going to be a little bit more. I'm just marking some spots for where I'm going to put my bolts. I'm going to pre-drill these. I don't know what size drill bit that is. It's the size that was a little bit smaller than my lag bolts. That's what size it was. Now I'm going to put this together with 3-inch lag bolts, and you might think that's excessive, and it might be, but again, I don't want it coming apart. So it could probably be done with just wood screws, but these don't cost a whole lot more. They're not terribly hard to put in. Yeah, the bolt actually is going quite a ways in. It's going 1.5 inches through this board, and then it goes probably about 1 inch into the remaining one. You might be admiring my fabulous work surface here. I'll leave a link down in the description to allow you to buy 2 great overturned trash cans. There's a reason actually that I'm using these and not my sawhorses. And that is because we got another project sitting on the sawhorses in the house. So you do what you gotta do. Don't want to do them like this. So I'm gonna have to flip it around and then turn it so that my 2 posts are the remaining portion, they're facing each other. I got 4 of these bolts left, and I've got another 24-inch piece. Now, that's not wanting to go in there. So I gotta make a choice. Do I take the chisel to it, or do I just try to tap it in? And it looks awfully close, so I'm just gonna try to tap it in. Yeah, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. It almost looks like I missed my line. I think I had a couple of lines. When I started putting that in, it just didn't go in smoothly. It was tipping the leg, and I brought this clamp out. I should have put it on before, but I didn't. Okay, let's do these two and we're in business. So there we go. Those are the back legs. Here are the front legs. Now I have to cut some boards that are going to go in here. They're going to be a little less than, I think they're going to be 21 inches, but I'm going to fit it and make sure I like the way it's fitting. Now, one thing I would point out, this is not the only size plastic barrel you could get. And this one, I said, was about 19 inches across at the most. Yours could be bigger. Yours could be smaller. You just want to make sure you measure and get it right. Okay, now, if you look right in here, as I put this front and back, now this is going to be raised up, you might say, oh, Mark, you've messed up because this and this, these are not going to match up without going through the barrel. But it's okay, because the barrel is going to be sitting on top of that. So actually, I think it'll make it a little bit stronger to put these things on the inside. But I'm just going to measure there. The opening in there between the two sets of legs to go inside was just a little over 20 inches. Just, I mean, like 20 and a quarter. And I don't want to be super tight having the barrel in there because those four legs are gonna potentially get in the way. So I'm gonna make it, instead of 20, I'm gonna make it 22, and I hope I like it. Beautiful. Let's be realistic. This is not fine cabinetry, and so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I'm just going to get it as perfect as I can make it. I'm going to fit these in, make sure we like it. I'm not sure if I can do that with the barrel in the way. Okay, now you can see it sits on top of those. Okay, decided that these boards we just cut are actually a little too long. All right, let's try it again. I cut 3 inches off. We're going to run the, I'm going to call them the floorboards or the seat boards, see if this is a chair, and we're going to run them this way. So I'm going to put a central brace in the middle here. Probably don't absolutely need it, so we'll cut that next. Now, why am I doing this with a socket? Because we bought new bolts and they were a little bit bigger and I don't have a bit that size, so yeah, it'll work. Okay, we have got the basic structure done. Put a board down the middle. It was 19 1/8 inch in length. Your results may vary. Thing is pretty sturdy. I mean, it'll move a little bit, but once the floorboards are on, the platform boards, I think it's going to be pretty solid. And, you know, it doesn't have to get moved a lot. It's just got to have a few 100 pounds of water sitting on top of it. So, we are ready to put the decking on, and then we'll be pretty much done with the woodworking. I've cut 2 pieces of decking for the barrel to sit on, and I don't know, I just don't feel like that's quite enough. It probably is, and I did do a scientific experiment to ensure that it probably was. But just since we've got the wood, we thought maybe we would notch at least one of these and make room for a third piece. have pretty much finished, and when I say pretty much, I mean we have finished the support structure. We notched here, as explained earlier. I used the circular saw as far as I could go, but then of course it leaves that little curved bit, so I used a jigsaw to knock out the corner, but it made it a whole lot easier that way. Laid these in, 3 of them, about a 3/4 inch space in between. So, moment of truth. Does the barrel fit? I think we pretty well knew it would. All right, we are ready to put the plumbing on this sucker. We have these lovely inserts for barrels. I'll show you how that goes here in just a second. Penny's marked the spot here where it should be. It's about 12 inches up from the bottom. You might say, hey, that seems kind of high. Well, maybe it is, but we wanted it high enough that, first of all, you can get a bucket under there. But probably more importantly, with all the comfreys in there, it's presumably going to settle to the bottom, and we didn't want it to get constantly clogged up. So it'll have this much water in there, and then the stuff at the bottom really won't get used. It'll just get added to. Yeah, that is a hole saw, obviously. 1 3/4 hole saw. It's also the hole saw that I have that matches the fitting. I knew I had one because I've used it before. Okay, so I'm going to take this little nut off of here. If you look at this thing, it has a rubber, oh my goodness, rubber O-ring down here. That's going to go on the inside. And then this is going to compress it down, and you just tighten it as tight as you can possibly get it. It'll turn on you. Okay, so I stick that through. Okay, I'm going to tighten this by hand as far as I can. And I brought some channel locks out here to give it the last turn or so. That should be good. Now, Penny needs to decide how far out from the barrel she wants this to be. But here's what I've got. Just an elbow, a couple inches of 1-inch pipe, PVC, a 1-inch, obviously it's a 1-inch elbow, a 1-inch valve, and then whatever will go between here and here. We've got lovely Husky PVC cutters, and I've marked my pipe to just go into the recess in each of the fittings, and this thing just ratchets in. Boom, cuts it nice and clean. We're going to get a thunderstorm here in a minute, so that's something to look forward to. Okay, this is going to go in here. I haven't glued anything yet. Okay, we are pretty much ready. I think we'll put it in place, and Penny's going to tell you about how the Comfrey goes in and works and all that stuff. I don't do plans.
Okay, now that Mark has put the water in our Comfrey barrel, it's my turn to cut the Comfrey. So let me show you what Comfrey I'm going to cut. I have been waiting for this barrel to be done. This whole area is a disaster. It's Comfrey and it is yarrow, and the Comfrey has really gone wild, really big. So this though is all new because I did cut some leaves back. So I'm going to collect these big leaves and stems to put in my Comfrey barrel. And I have about 3 plants that have decided to go ahead and start their new little leaves and just laid down their big leaves. So I'm going to collect as much of these as I think will fit in my barrel. Well, all I did was clean out the big pieces from this one plant. And this is what I have. A lot. You definitely want to wear gloves when you are cutting this back. It's a little prickly, so I'm going to continue wearing my gloves, and we're going to go down to the water barrel, and when we're there, I'm going to chop it up and put it in. So what I'm going to do here to make this work better is to go ahead and slice it like this so that it has more open ends to let its yummy goodness out. So you might say, why do this with comfrey? Why not use another plant? Well, there are other good plants that you could use, but comfrey contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, as well as calcium, which makes it great for peppers and tomatoes if you get that blossom end rot. So I have lots of comfrey, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, you don't have to soak this in water to make a tea. You can just chop these up and drop them around plants, and that will also fertilize. Of course, the water has to kind of run through it, rainwater or when you're watering. Soaking it in water makes it much more soluble, and you can decide how much you want to add. So after it sits for a couple of weeks, you can either use it full strength or you can water it down depending on what you're fertilizing. Maybe you want to fertilize some tender little plants, then use it watered down. Maybe you've got your tomatoes and peppers in full bloom and you want them to keep going strong, so you might want to use it strong right from the tap. Now, honestly, I will probably always water mine down because it's going to be sitting in this barrel for all summer. I'll just keep adding to it. As I deplete the water, I will add water, and I will add comfrey. And that's why the spigot is up so high from here, because all of the comfrey that's going to be sitting in here will eventually start to break down and will end up at the bottom of the barrel, which means if this is at the bottom of the barrel, that could clog the flow of water. So this way I have room for my comfrey to settle and still be able to get to the yummy goodness up here. Now let's put the comfrey in. Mark said we have a little over 30 gallons of water in here. So it's about, I would say, maybe 11 or 12 inches from the top. He wanted me to have enough room to shove this comfrey down in there. So I'm just gonna start throwing it in. Now, I won't use this for a couple of weeks. I could use it like in a week, and it won't need to be watered down at that point. It'll be a little bit weaker than normal. I am really excited to have my own source of fertilizer without just doing it a bucket at a time. Last year and the year before, I had to buy fertilizer, and I didn't like doing that. So this year, I can just use my own. Now, I'm gonna use this big thick stem to push all of this down into the water. There we go. Now this has got a nice airtight lid on it, because I have to tell you, this is going to smell very strong when I start pouring it out. It is a very strong, good working fertilizer. Okay, there we go. Let me show you what we got here. Now I will just put the lid on, and I think I will actually go ahead and put more water in more comfrey and a little bit more water so it's full up to the top. Let's put my lid on. And then this comes up and goes around the lid and the rim. Okay, let's see, I think it's in place all the way around. Now I just gotta lock it tight. There. Woo! That is very tight. Okay, so now we just let it sit. Thanks so much for coming along, and if you're wondering what I will do with the rest of that comfrey that I cut, I will put it in our compost bin because it's amazing for compost. It really gets things started. I will chop it up and put it in the compost just like I did in the tub. If you use comfrey tea to fertilize with, let me know what you put it on and what strength you use so that I will have a better idea how to use mine. If you're new here today, thanks so much for stopping by. I would love it if you would check out some of my other videos. We would love to have you as part of our YouTube family. And you guys be sure to subscribe, thumbs up, share, please share. Until next time, blessings on you and yours.